ini saya akan melakukan update.
Good morning, the honorable adjudicators, debaters, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start our debate today, please set your handphone or any device that may disturb our debate today to the silent mode. Especially for audience, please do not disturb. Welcome to the English debate with the motion rapid test should or should not be given to people freely. On the government side, acting as the affirmative team for this debate is the team from government, with Mr. Shevandrio as the first speaker and Ms. Sarah as the second speaker. Then on the other side, acting as opposite team for this debate is the team from general public with Mr. Valentino as the first speaker and Mr. Arya as the second speaker. Then I would like to tell the regulation of this debating competition. In this debate, for the substantive speech, I will knock at 1 minute to show that point of information can be delivered. For the reply speech, I will knock once at 1 minute. Now we come into our debate today. The theme that we discuss is rapid test should not be given to people freely. This theme will be divided into three aspects. First, impact on the economy, then on transportation and education. Before starting the debate, I will explain a bit about COVID-19 in Indonesia. COVID-19 is a virus that is still affecting in Indonesia from now, making it difficult for everyone to activities because of the rules for social distancing. Therefore, if there are people who need activities outside, they must have a rapid test letter. So the theme that we will discuss now is whether the rapid test should be free or not. Starting from the first aspect, which is the economic aspect, which will begin with the affirmative team to open the case from the affirmative team. Here is the first speaker of the affirmative team, Mr. Shevandrio. The first speaker of affirmative team spent 1 minute.
This quick test is very important indeed. It is needed for people who have many needs. However, a quick test does not need to be facilitated to the community for free, because from the tools themselves require special tools that cost quite expensive. This quick test is really done for someone who really needs it. Thank you.
Then to start the case from the opposite team, here is the first speaker of the opposite team. Mr. Valen, the first speaker of the opposite team, spent 1 minute.
If such a rapid test is free of charge, people will find it very difficult to detect the presence of the COVID-19 virus in their bodies. We can see from the people whose economies are currently affected by this pandemic. Of course, they will be very difficult to do a rapid test is done openly and is intended free of charge to all people.
How the response of the second speaker from the government team will unfortunately give 1 minute. Please.
Many people asked for rapid test free of charge, but they didn't look how much the government had to spend money for it. It's not only for rapid tests, but also for the tools and infrastructure that must be prepared. And also, we need a huge amount of medical workers who are ready to deal with this virus.
And at least by conducting mass rapid tests will help the government in handling COVID-19. If the government continues to carry out rapid tests, the problem will not be solved, but will continue to add. For funds, we think the government has made and managed it in such a way that the government has even begun to make its own rapid test tool, which is much cheaper than the other rapid test tools. The funds raised were also asked by the world community who want to donate to help others and care about this pandemic.
Second aspect, I will give you 5 minutes for debate. The aspect is transportation, which will begin with the affirmative team. Start from now.
If the rapid test is done for free, everyone will do it. So everyone can go anywhere. Given that if we want to ride public transportation such as trains, planes, etc., rapid tests are needed. So if all people have the result of the rapid test, then social distancing and physical distancing will disappear. Therefore, it's also good if people don't have a rapid test. They will be more relocation to get out of the hours and minimize the crowd. Thank you.
By conducting rapid tests throughout the community for free, it will make it easier for medical staff to find out the number of people affected by the COVID-19 virus and can be treated immediately. And for the issue of health certificates, certificate can function if people are forced to leave the house due to work or others. If they just stay at home, what they will eat later and their families. He was at rapid that if people did not have medical certificate, the officer in charge will arrest and bring the person to be isolated. Will that person who is the backbone of if in the family finally could not make a living?
But if a person gets a rapid test letter easily, he might travel freely because the rapid test letter is temporary and lasts only 1 week. The person might spend the entire week in the area he visits with the COVID-19 outbreak and then return to his home with the virus. He could also transmit the COVID-19 virus to the nearest person. It would also be very inconvenient if people do the test again every week because they had traveled to several places.
For people who travel outside the area will certainly be checked again, and if test positive, then the person's health certificate will be taken and will be immediately isolated. So if the person has traveled outside the area and is declared negative, then he can immediately do independent isolation at home for 14 days by following established health protocols and then creating a new health certificate. To travel outside the region, we think the government will prohibit if it necessary to return home and not have very important interest. This health certificate was made to facilitate the government in making data of people affected by COVID-19 or not and to avoid gossip hoax that arise. People think that if their neighbors don't have a medical certificate, it will be removed or dumped and the community will lose its identity as a nation that cares for others.
If the community can go home or travel, they should be able to pay a rapid test to get a health certificate and prove that they are affected by the COVID-19 virus or not. And also the owners of public transportation should ask for a health certificate first, so that the COVID-19 virus does not spread to all people who are or have used the public transportation, and also always implement health protocols.
Okay. People do not go home to be made happy, but because they have to, those affected by layoff due to this pandemic are forced to return home because they cannot afford to live in the city. Therefore, they return to their village because they at least have jobs like farmer and others. So, with the medical certificate of those who are laid off at his company can make a living in his village.
Time's up. Then to continue our debate today, we will talk about third aspect, which is the aspect. I would like to call the speaker of the opposite team. This debate will last for 5 minutes.
And for education issues, we feel obligated to do a rapid test across all education personnel without exception, and it is hoped that there will be no fees. In education personnel, there are still honorary teachers. This honorary teacher only gets a salary that is not in accordance with what he does. This is an obstacle for the world of education because the teachers still have to be in school due to data collection, giving assignment to the student, and etc. So the rapid test will also affect their work. Rapid tests that have been carried out will be given by medical personnel in the form of health certificates. Health certificate will prove that education personnel are still healthy. So we strongly disagree if a rapid test change for this education. Thank you.
Please, the government team can give a rebuttal to the government team.
Okay. To undertake the rapid test, it cannot be done in some sites. If education is supplied the rapid test for free, workers and other sites will want it to, so that will be a demonstrated. The government didn't do that, not because we didn't want to, but because inadequate facilities. Because it's not only taken in some areas, but in a whole area in Indonesia. It's not only about money, means, and infrastructure, but it's insufficient medical worker that must be carried out across Indonesia. Education is also the most recent aspect normalized after malls, office, market, etc. This is because education is very important for Indonesia going forward. So it's very guarded to minimize the crowds and spread the coronavirus even bigger. Thank you.
Rapid tests are carried out strictly not only in the educational environment. So, we underline again that the government can find out and record the number of patients with COVID-19. That's why the government can think of a strategy so that the economy, education, and other files are not destroyed and can proceed as usual. For the shortage of medical staff, many volunteered during the pandemic with sincerity and heartfelt. Instead, what you say, that education is very important for Indonesia is very true. Therefore, education can still be done online to avoid the spread of COVID-19.
I know what it means, but here, what is discussed is about education. And you recognize that education can still be done online. Therefore, we cannot give free rapid tests because we really need a lot of consideration.
Finally, I invite each team to submit a closing review for 1 minute, starting with the government team, and then the opposite for the government team. We invite you.
Maybe we can take the middle ground. Such people who have a KEP Smart Indonesian card will be free for a rapid test, while for those who do not have a KEP still pay according to the amount or price that has been determined. Maybe it can reduce the burden of funds from the government.
And for the Indonesian smart card, we feel that it's not yet fully spread among the poor because some are still not taking care of this Indonesian smart card. If you use the method you said, that is still considered unfair because this pandemic, many people affected by layoff, even they could not make a living. Then for the mandate of keep in this pandemic, it is very difficult and must wait a long time due to employee restriction and working hours. Finally, they did not want to do a rapid test. This is what will hamper the data collection and handling of the problem of the COVID-19, such as those who have not done rapid test because of cost issue, they will not know whatever are they affected by this COVID-19. If so, it will spread and eventually the number of victims will continue to increase. Okay.
Therefore, rapid test should only be done for people who feel the symptom of this COVID-19. For example, in Bandung, rapid test may be done for free of charge with the drive-through method. But who can do this test are only those who feel the symptom of COVID-19. So, even though there are people who are less able, he can do this test for free on condition that he does feel the symptom. People who do not feel symptom should stay at home. Even if he has to go out for work, the government has issued the stage of the health protocol that must be followed. The problem of the distribution of COVID-19 will stop or not is depending on the activities of the community itself, not depending on the rapid test conducted, because of the fact that people still often leave their house not to work, but to hang out and play. Thank you.
The last here is the reply speech from the opposite team. Mr. Valentino, please.
In the news, it has been raised that many people have died, and when examined, that person is a person with COVID-19. Though the person does not show symptoms COVID-19 according to his family. If we wait to feel the symptoms, it's too late for use, because when they don't feel the symptoms, the person has spread the coronavirus, because the symptoms of the coronavirus appear after 2 days to 2 weeks after the patient is exposed to the coronavirus. For people who are still hanging out and playing can be subject to sanction in the form of heavy fines or penalties that make them not leave the house again. And it is expected that a place that still provide for hanging out and not complying with health protocols may be subject to fines or closure forever.
Okay, the conclusion we can draw is that from the point of view of the general public, they tend to want the rapid test to be carried out openly free of charge. But with the result of the rapid test in the form of health certificate, it will be misused by some people to go anywhere without following the application of physical distancing and health protocol. But on the one hand, if a rapid test is charged at a cost, the public will be reluctant to do a rapid test, and the number of COVID-19 sufferers will not be known with certainty. However, this way will reduce the number of people who want to travel to an area and can also be income to replace the rapid test equipment and also the hard work of medical personnel. That's the end of our debate today, and we will allow the honorable adjudicators to decide the winner of this debate.
Kerjaan terganggu, pilek, hidung jadi mampet, apalagi kalau sakit kepala.
Hei, berisik, mending bagus suaranya, lagi pusing nih.
Belum tahu dia. Sudah saja pergi sana lu, hus.
Now it's time for the honorable adjudicators to give verbal. But we have to look at the reality that exists now in Indonesia. It has not been able to provide adequate facilities, so it is not possible to do a quick free test. So the winner of this debate is government team, because opinions can be defended by the government team. That's all our debate today. Thank you for watching this debate. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.